We didn't leave Castaway early. Everybody got back on the ship. But then they said, we're going to go full speed ahead. And I didn't realize that really means full speed ahead. So the captain announced it to the ship. Nico and I were back in the room at that point packing. But the captain announced it to the whole ship. We have a sick passenger on board. We are going to Nassau much faster than we normally would have.
Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of the DCL Duo podcast, brought to you by My Path Unwinding Travel. And we're going to skip all the pleasantries for today's bonus show, listener reviews, all of that fun stuff. Dive right into this topic. Sam, I'm going to throw it over to you to intro the guest and the topic today.
Yeah, well, we have talked about rescues off of Disney Cruise Line ships. We have talked about being quarantined on a Disney Cruise Line ship back in 2022 when I got COVID on board. This is a topic today that we have talked about sort of as observers, but not as people who have experienced this, which is what happens when you get sick or injured on a cruise ship and you have to be evacuated, and what that experience is like from the passenger and family point of view. So we're going to kind of go back almost a year in history on today's show, and we're going to talk to our guests today, Michele and Nico. Welcome, Michele. Welcome, Nico.
Hi.
We're excited to have you. I don't know if I should say I'm excited about today's topic, but I kind of am, because it's just an interesting topic that I think, we have been on Disney ships a couple of times where we've had to divert to a different location, where we had to go back to New Orleans early, or we had to go to Lookout Key at one point. And we wanted to talk about that experience. But let's talk about what's your Disney background? You guys live in Southern California, so you're very close to Disneyland. But Michele, why don't we start with you? How long you been a Disney fan? Your whole life, or is this more new?
No, it's my whole life. So my nickname is Mickey. Allegedly, it's because I was squeaking as a baby, but my parents don't even call me Michele. They call me Mouse or Mickey. So do all family friends. And so I had no choice but to be a big Disney fan. My mom grew up in Southern California, so she was one of the first people to go to Disneyland when it opened. And it was always my favorite thing. It was always expensive, so we didn't get to do it so often. But when I had kids, I was like, I'm getting a pass. And so this guy has been going to Disneyland since he was in utero and is a huge fan. So we love all things. Well, we thought we loved all things Disney, but until we came into the DCL family about a year ago, we didn't know about DVC. We didn't know about any of Adventures by Disney. We didn't know about all of that. Now our world has expanded.
I love that. Nico, how old are you, and how do you remember the first time you went to Disney?
I don't, and that was so long ago when they had that Bugs water park in California Adventure. So somebody says, I don't remember it, but I've been going. I know I've been going for a while. I'm 12, and I've been going a lot. I go a lot normally, and I think it's fun. We were going to go last week to try out the new Millennium Falcon ride. There was a big chemical spill. We didn't get to go, but we would have been able to talk about that if we did go. I have heard good stuff about it.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll go soon. It's close by, so I'm sure you'll get there. But you'll get there before us. I have no question about that. Well, let's talk about. We wanted to talk about your first cruise, Michele. I know you booked the Dream. This was about a year ago. Tell us about the booking process, because I think this was kind of a last minute cruise for you all.
It was, and now it was crazy what we did, but it was about this time last year. My mom and I had both had some very stressful times at work, and we wanted to do something special. And we'd often thought about doing a Disney cruise, and by a whim in middle of the night, I go on Costco's travel website, and Costco had the Dream cruise. Well, they had other cruises, but this one just fit perfectly. and it was a good price. And so I got all invested, and we basically, I think it was past the paid in full date and everything. I think we got it less than 60 days out. And so we did lots of last minute planning to do it. And we were going on a dream with 5-night Bahamian cruise. So the standard itinerary, which for us was a big deal. We went to both. It was supposed to go to both Lookout and Castaway and Nassau. So, and then right before, and my mom we were all super excited. And right 2 weeks before the cruise, was it 2 weeks? My mom fell in her backyard cutting cilantro. We have now banned her from cutting cilantro in the backyard.
Cilantro's evil, by the way. So there you go.
Exactly. And she cut herself in the leg, and she's a Kaiser patient. She never likes to go to the doctor. She's like, well, since we're leaving on the cruise, I think that we should go to urgent care. So we go to urgent care. They're like, no, you need to go to the ER. We spend the day in the ER, and she gets stitched up, and we ask the ER doctor, we're going on a cruise. It wasn't even 2 weeks. It was 5 days, 6 days. And is that okay, or do we need to postpone it? Oh, no, it's fine. She just can't swim. And I asked, can we have prophylactic antibiotics? My mom is in her 80s. And he said, oh, no, those don't work. We don't do that. You don't need antibiotics. Yes. And
yes, head slap. You see, for those not watching the video, I just slapped my head because to me, of course, yeah, like if you're an 80-year-old who has a nasty cut that needs stitches, to me, like, of course you would give them prophylactic antibiotics just in case of infection.
And it was a huge cut. I mean, it was, I'm holding my fingers out. It was like
a foot long. Yeah.
And she had skin issues and whatever. And we ended up taking her to see a dermatologist right before as well, said, hey, we're going on a cruise. Can she go? Oh, yeah, it's fine. So we fly out to Florida. She's tired, but she just can't walk well. We have a wheelchair for her. It's our first cruise, so we're not even Silver Castaway status, but we had reserved a wheelchair, and Disney was so wonderful. I mean, you wouldn't know. I mean, we did we even stop? I don't even think we ever stopped. We went through security. They got our magic bands done. We were on the ship. I mean, there was no waiting. Anyway, so that was that part. I'll stop my narrative now.
Okay, so this was, sorry, you just said it, but remind me what ship this was again?
Dream.
The Dream. So again, for the listeners, we're going to kind of skip through some of the normal trip report stuff and kind of get straight to the meat of this topic. And I also wanted to flag, like, if you're interested in hearing about the perspective of a rescuer on board, you can head over to episode 458. Sam, I cannot believe it's 200 plus episodes since we recorded that show. But you can hear from, it was Kevin, right? Who came on?
Yes, Kevin, who's a Coast Guard. Now he's a Coast Guard rescue instructor, but he has been a Coast Guard rescue swimmer. And so we talked about from the perspective of the rescuers when they're having to do a ship rescue, right? Either through helicopter or ship or something like that.
Yeah. So Michele, let me ask you this. So you get on board the Dream, you're having your cruise, like when in the sailing did the problem start, right? Like when did,
Day 2. Okay. So day after embarkation day. So you have enjoy embarkation day. What happens that leads you to go to, ship medical?
So on the next morning is Castaway, and we get up early. I get a facial. I had a full cruise. I get up early at 6:30 in the morning. I have a facial. My mom's still asleep, but she seems fine. So Nico and I go to Castaway. We do the 5K. We're there for a couple of hours, but he wants to go back and get on the aqueduct. So we go back, and I check on my mom, and she says, I am really not feeling well. And we're waiting for the medical bay to open, which was silly because now I know we could have asked them to open.
Yeah, let me pause you right there. So for those who don't know, you can always call Ships Medical if it's an emergency. You can call them through the phone system in your room. If you need to, just like if you don't know the number, like call guest services first, and then they will transfer you. But they always have somebody on call even when the medical center isn't open. So you can get 24-hour care in an emergency situation, even if it's not during sort of, we'll call them regular ship medical business hours. Sorry, continue, Michele.
No, that's helpful. And had we known that, we would have done it. We didn't. So we waited until they opened. We went down, and they were, with the exception of the fact that it looks like you're in a small medical bay on a ship, we could have been on land. They were so professional. They were so on top of it. The only thing we didn't have to do was wait. They took my mom right in. They looked at her. They were, the nurse was as professional as he could be. And he's like, this is serious. We need to take care of this right away. And they made my mom feel so comfortable, even though I was scared to death once he said that. They were just on top of it right away.
Nico, where were you at this time? Like, where were
deck 11 at the pool?
On the aqueduct.
you're on the
At least that's where I assume I was.
Yeah, so you had no idea this was even happening, and mom and grandma are down at the medical center.
I think
wow.
Maybe like 2 or 3 hours later, she sent me a text about it through the DCL app.
No, I mean, he knew that's what I was going to do, and he had made a friend the night before. He was already well into
the shared table.
And so I was like, okay, I know where he is. I know what he's doing. I'll just stay here with her. And I'm in and out, I think, looking for him. But the nurse looks over her. The doctor does immediately. And then they tell us everything they're doing. They're like, we're contacting our hospital liaison stateside in Washington, D.C. We're doing blood work and whatever. And they did. They took her in for x-rays. They did blood work and everything probably within 45 minutes or an hour, all
Wow.
on the ship.
So they're checking, of course, to figure out like what the infection or what kind of infection she's got, whether the infection has gotten to bone. I'm not a doctor, but like I can figure this stuff out, right? Like they're trying to figure out if the infection has reached her bones. Like they're trying to figure out how serious this infection is. Now, are you all still at Castaway?
Yeah, where's the ship? Yeah.
The ship is still a Castaway.
So
And so this is day 2. So how long was this cruise, and where was your next port stop?
It was 5 days, and we were going to Nassau the next day. Subsequently, we did find out that someone had been medevaced off of Castaway that day in a helicopter as well. And we didn't even know on the ship that this was going on, that the medical people had not told us that they were dealing with another emergency. We only found this out from our Facebook group afterwards.
Well, and when you're in the medical center, I've been in the medical center a couple of times, unfortunately, just being sick and stuff, right? It's like, it feels empty. Like there's not, like you mentioned, it's a small like health center, right? You feel like you're in an urgent care essentially. But you don't see other people. There's no lines. It's not, there might be one other person in there, but you wouldn't necessarily know that because they're in a patient room and you're in a patient room and you wouldn't see each other. Yeah. So what's like the first indication that, okay, this is more serious than something we can just handle on board? And like, how long into your visit is this?
So they were letting us know after they did the x-rays and the blood work, they immediately hooked her up to IV antibiotics and were telling us what was going on as it was going. And they're saying, we're hooking her up to antibiotics. We're consulting with the people in DC. What may be the next step is we will need to take you to Nassau to go to a hospital. And so there was never any surprise. There was never any, and there wasn't, I don't know how to explain it, but it wasn't catastrophic in the way they said it. They were very transparent so that I knew how serious it was, but also so that I knew what the next steps were so that I wouldn't be afraid. And it in retrospect, it was hours, but it felt very immediate the whole way. And they were getting real-time answers from the doctors in DC. They were coming in. There were experienced nurses. Then there was a doctor. Then there was another doctor who came and consulted, who was also on the cruise. I mean, we felt so comfortable and confident with the medical care. And that was a surprise. I mean, we didn't expect such competent care. Which now, I mean, it was just amazing. And it really calmed my mom. And then when it ultimately came to, we are going to take the ship to Nassau as fast as possible. We are going full steam ahead. And these are the hospitals in Nassau, and this is what you need to expect going in. They were so good. They said there are these 2 hospitals in Nassau, or you can ask to be taken back to the United States. These are the options. And they were very honest. And I was like, I don't know. Can you tell me the pros and cons?
What's your professional recommendation is essentially what you're asking, because you're like, I have no familiarity with the hospitals in Nassau, but I also don't know how close or how dangerous it is to fly her back to the US or whatever it's going to take to get her back to Florida, presumably, right?
Pause here for a second. So what were the options presented, and what were the pros and cons that they gave you?
So the options presented were Doctors Hospital, which was a private hospital in Nassau, a public hospital in Nassau, whose name I can't remember, and getting repatriated to some hospital in Miami. And so there was the pros of being in Nassau were the immediacy. The cons were not American hospitals. The pro of going to Miami was an American hospital. The cons were the time and the transport. And because she would have to go in a helicopter, we couldn't necessarily go. Or anyway, there were all those issues, and I didn't know what the quality of the hospitals were in Nassau or anything like that. And so they ultimately told me, this is where the crew goes. Whenever we're sick, this is where the crew goes. This is where we go. This is what we do. And gave me all that so I could make more of an informed decision. And they also warned me, and this was the other issue, was the financial issue. They said, if you go to Nassau, they will ask you for cash up front, and it's substantial. It will probably be about $3,000. So you need to be aware of the fact that that's coming up too. So there was I had all of those things that I could consider. And because they said, she's stable now, she's on antibiotics, she is not going to die. This is this serious, but as long as she's under care, which she is, she will be okay. But is it a good idea to transport her back to the US? She's not going to get sicker, but you may want to consider that. And that was all part of the calculation.
Yeah. And so the ship leaves Castaway. I assume they didn't leave early. I assume they left like kind of on time from Castaway. And then were you at Nassau later that evening, or like how long did it take to get to Nassau?
So they left. So we did not leave Castaway early. And I think the decision to go full speed ahead to Nassau wasn't even made until they weren't going to leave. We didn't leave Castaway early. Everybody got back on the ship. But then they said, we're going to go full speed ahead. And I didn't realize that really means full speed ahead. So the captain announced it to the ship. Nico and I were back in the room at that point packing. But the captain announced it to the whole ship. We have a sick passenger on board. We are going to Nassau much faster than we normally would have. We're going to be there by 9:20 p.m. And the ship GPS was correct, and we got there at 9:21, and it definitely felt different. It was faster than we'd gone up until then. And because of where the medical bay is, we could feel the ship moving.
Yeah, you could really feel it down below, that how fast you're going. Yeah. Well, people don't realize like how close Castaway really is to Nassau and to Grand Bahama. I mean, they're really an Abaco, right? They're all really close together, like those Bahamian islands. That doesn't mean it doesn't still take you a couple of hours, at ship speed, but most of the time when you're sailing from one to the other, they're just kind of meandering their way there, kind of slowly through the night. Like, so it's
doing nice circles at sea. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a nice leisurely ride. If they really need to book it to get there, they can get there, in a couple of hours. So that's it's really nice to hear that they announced it too, just so that people had some awareness of what was going on.
So I'm curious. So at this point, all right, you're going to Nassau. You're going to be getting off. So obviously, I'm guessing some members of your party had to head back to staterooms and start packing up. I'm just curious, did Disney offer any assistance with kind of getting you packed up?
They were amazing. They offered it, and I had said, "Oh no, we don't need that." They still sent 2 people from guest services to come and help us pack. And they said, if you need any help, we'll do it. Do you need us to get you anything? Do you need us to take care of your folio? They took care of our folio. They canceled everything. They reimbursed me for everything. They offered to get us food from main dining. And they went and they got us whatever we wanted from any of the restaurants. Nico wanted to go and buy things in the gift shop. They took him to the gift shop. They brought us gifts that they provided. They gave Nico a shirt and chips and all this other stuff. And they kept saying, we can help you pack your suitcases. We can do whatever. And they weren't pushy about it. They were just supportive about it. And I'm vacillating between being stressed and crying and being in professional mode. And they rolled with every part of it. And there were 2 people that were assigned to us, but they gave us the phone number for a third. They gave us their cell phone numbers. They were, even on the ship, they were just so amazing and supportive and understanding. And so I could leave my mom in the medical bay and knew she made friends with the nurses and the doctors. They knew everybody's history, and she was safe and felt and wasn't scared. And they were there for us. And we, so much so that we knew the name of the 2 people who were helping us from guest services. It was Tomas and Nisha. And we actually went and found them when we went on our makeup cruise. We found Tomas. Nisha was on vacation. It was not on at that time. But I mean, they remembered us and we remembered them. It was just amazing.
So I'm curious. Let me pause for a second and say, Nico, what was this experience like for you on the ship before what was going through?
You have to leave. Like, how are you feeling and what are you experiencing?
I didn't know really what was fully what was happening. I knew we were kind of.
Hey, Nico, can you lean in and talk a little louder for us?
So I knew we were kind of getting off the ship and stuff, but I didn't know when, how to feel or anything. I was just up on the top deck, just going around the pool, and then I have a message from my mom, and I find her, and I was like. And I really hid in when I started to pack, and it was great, and it was a really cool experience, getting off and seeing all that stuff and getting to be on Nassau. But it was still that's when sadness kind of kicked in then too. So yeah,
His friend was traveling also with his mother and grandma, and they heard the announcement and they came to our room. The grandma and the son, and gave us a hug goodbye, and we're so worried, as if we'd known them for a year. It was just the whole ship, and it just everybody encouraged that kind of behavior. Everybody was so wonderful.
Yeah, and you had just met them at dinner the night before, right? You had just met them at dinner on embarkation day. Nico had, bonded with their kid, right? And you all had bonded probably over dinner that first night. And how wonderful is that they came to check on you and to wish you good luck and all of that.
But I want to pause here. This is my PSA moment here, which is the reaction that the friend and the mother and the grandmother had. All of you out there listening who are going to get on a Disney cruise, have that reaction in these moments, because we have heard about some really just awful stories of people complaining to crew about missing excursions because of medical
or fireworks or whatever. That's not important.
I know most of you out there listening will exercise this level of empathy, but please be that empathetic, because I always say if something was happening to me on board, I would want Disney to do whatever it took to get me to competent medical care. And so if that's happening for somebody else, I expect them to do the same. So just know that your missed excursion could mean the difference between someone getting life-saving medical care or not. And I won't say that it doesn't stink, right? I mean, it's not fun when your vacation gets interrupted, but know that the interruption for the family experiencing emergency is much greater than any interruption you'll experience. So, okay, so I want to ask, so you get to Nassau. What's it like getting off the ship? It's 9:20 at night. Guessing there's no real other ships in port because they all leave, 6:00 in the evening at the latest. I assume they have an ambulance there ready to take you. And I guess we didn't figure out which option you chose. It sounds like you maybe
I also want to know about what happened with your luggage. Like, how does your luggage get off?
Oh,
And
yeah.
all, yeah. Just the
Yeah.
mechanics of getting off, I'm curious about.
So we had decided on Doctor's Hospital based on the crew telling us that this is where they went. Honestly, that was the highest recommendation that we had. Was like, you go there, that's okay, then we will go there. So that was decided because the ambulance had to go with the hospital. So the Doctor's Hospital ambulance was waiting at the cruise. And then we had packed up all our luggage. They took it down the same way they would have on debarkation day. And we went out of the side of the ship, which was the place I think we got out when we would get out for Castaway. And outside waiting for us was the ambulance, was somebody to help Nico and I through customs, was somebody to help us go to our hotel, and somebody with all the paperwork from guest services. So there was Disney personnel who were shore-based. There was Disney personnel from the cruise ship, and then there were the medical people. So the first thing they did was take my mom, get her customs paperwork done, get everything done, and she went to the hospital. And then we stayed, and all I had to do was sign a paper practically. They had my passports. They had all of our passports. They had all of our information. They had already filled everything out. And then the customs person from the Bahamas was brought out from bed to come and handle it. And then there was a Disneyland-based guy whose job it was to coordinate. They had already gotten us a hotel. They had run it by us to make sure it was okay. And then they drove a golf cart with our luggage and us in it. And we went through, because we had to go through customs, Nico and I, and that was driving through a gate, basically, at shoreside. And then we got back to our luggage, and then they drove us to this hotel that they had found for us and gave us all the directions, all the instructions to get to the hospital, phone numbers for people to call. I had already gotten a call at that point from Disney Medical in Miami or in Orlando checking on us. And we dropped our stuff off at the hotel they'd reserved for us. Disney people brought our luggage in, and then they left, and then we took a taxi to the hospital.
I'll say that tracks our experience when Sam got COVID. Like we set foot into, they had a car waiting, they did all the custom stuff. And as soon as we got in the car, Sam's phone was ringing from somebody in Orlando. And I'll never forget the thing that like hallmarked the Disney service level for me was the first question. It wasn't a speech from them. It was just the first question was, how are you doing? How are you doing? And what can we do for you right now? Like, what do you need? And then it was, the speech of keep your receipts, whatever you need from us, we're going to make this right. And I just I tell people that story just to understand, like, you pay more for a Disney cruise, but what you're paying for, a lot of that is paying for service, a level of service that you may not always get from another cruise line. I don't want to speak to the other cruise lines. We've obviously not been on one and had a medical emergency situation, but I will say from talking to others, like what Disney does in these moments is really a differentiator for people. Even if another cruise line would pay for all of this stuff, help you arrange hotels, not sure that they would be the ones driving you to the hotel, making sure your luggage got off, sending 3 crew members to help you and your family, across here. So yeah, that's really great to hear that your experience aligns to the experience that we had. So it sounds like, so how long did you end up staying in Nassau then with your mom before you were able to head home?
4 or 5 days.
It was 5 days.
5 days. Wow. Okay.
Stayed at the hotel they gave us for 2 days. And then, because we were not doing anything really, we got a hotel near the Atlantis because we had a aquaventure thing to go with the dolphins already at the Atlantis as an excursion, and we missed it obviously, but they reimbursed us for that. But we got a hotel there that got ticket that you automatically get tickets for the Atlantis. You just have to recheck in every day before you get a new thing. And what I would just like walk across the street or like a block or two away, and I could go into like the water park. And it was really cool because I did that, and she kept going to the like hospital to go check on my grandma, and I was able to go do that, and she didn't really have to worry too much about me being bored all day, or not having to do anything.
That's amazing. Honestly, like I would have never thought of that. I think that's really smart, Michele. Like if he can come and go to Atlantis, and he's in like sort of an all-inclusive day resort, right? And then you can go back and forth between the hospital and the resort and check on him and check on your mom. It's a lot. It's a lot on your plate, of course, Michele, but like that, that seems like a very good solution for, what to do. You've got a 12-year-old or 11-year-old at the time who is going to be otherwise bored just sitting in a hotel or in a hospital.
No, and it was a suggestion from one of the taxi drivers who drove me to the hospital. And she suggested the hotel we stayed in, which ended up being cheaper than the place where we were staying, even with the Atlanta stuff. And I got to know the Bahamians really well those 5 days because the hospital was not near any hotel. So I had to take a taxi to and from all the time. And so I got to know the taxi drivers and stuff, but that was the best solution because I felt awful because I was away from him and his vacation had been ruined. And so he ended up having a really good time by himself, but he still ended up having a really good time.
Are you listening to our show because you want to make the most out of your next vacation? Great news, the fabulous team over at My Path Unwinding Travel can help guide you so you don't miss a thing. Their team of professional travel advisors are caring, knowledgeable, and experienced. It's why we use them to book our own travel. My Path Unwinding Travel is an authorized Disney vacation planner, which means they are recognized by Disney for their expertise and service. They have sailed on all the Disney ships, including in concierge, visited the theme parks, adventured with Disney, relaxed at Aulani, and so much more. Whether it's a Disney cruise, a theme park vacation, or Adventures by Disney, or if you are looking to expand beyond the mouse, My Path Unwinding Travel will elevate your next vacation planning experience. Even if you have already booked, reach out for a complimentary consultation to make your vacation even more magical. Ready to talk to the experts? Head over to mypathunwinding.com/DCL Duo or email dclduo@mypathunwinding.com so they know we sent you their way. Thanks, My Path Unwinding, for sponsoring today's show. Now back to the episode. Let's talk for a second about some of the financial aspects here, because so you had, it sounds like you had travel insurance from talking off air. Did you purchase travel insurance, and walk us through maybe what Disney picked up for you? I'm curious, did you get a bill from the onboard medical center, or did Disney just kind of waive the costs there? But talk us through you had the cruise, you had the airfare, you had the hotel, you obviously had incidentals while you're in Nassau. I said the airfare, but the flight changes themselves because now you got to go from Nassau back to the US. Just walk us through kind of what Disney did or provided and versus what you had to go through travel insurance to get taken care of. And then how that process was. The travel insurance process easy or was it hard?
The travel insurance process was a nightmare, and we bought Zurich travel insurance through Costco because that's who we had bought the cruise with, and Costco was wonderful. The problem was Zurich. I'm very clear of the experiences I had. Disney was great. Costco was great. Zurich was terrible. And what had happened was Disney did bill us for the care on board, but they gave us all the receipts because they knew we had travel insurance, and it was still very reasonable. I think we were billed for $1,200 for what they did on the cruise, which was, they didn't bill us for the getting there fast. They didn't bill us for any of that. They billed us for the x-rays, the blood work, the IV. They saved my mom's life. And the bill was very reasonable. And
I mean, ultimately, she had sepsis, right? We're talking life-threatening infection, not just she's a little sick.
Exactly. And it was something that we could not have anticipated at all because we'd been told she was safe to go.
She's fine. Yep,
Right.
exactly. She had a cut. It had been cleaned up. It had been stitched up. She had seen a doctor. She wasn't infected when it happened. So yeah, the infection developed over days following, I'm sure.
Yeah. And coincidentally developed on the ship. Like it wasn't. And so my mom also has Kaiser medical insurance. So what ultimately ended up happening, is skipping ahead before I found out, is Kaiser paid for all the medical care. They paid for the care on the ship. They paid for the care in the hospital. But I didn't know that at the time. I had travel insurance. So we go to the hospital. They tell me by the time I get there, they had admitted my mom. They'd started treating her before I'd even gotten there to pay. I got there. They did ask me for $3,000, which I had anticipated. And then after I knew she was getting care, I contacted, and we're talking midnight at this point, I contacted Zurich. And at first they were like, you did the right thing. You let us know. This is what we need you to do. Tell us what's going on. We'll be supportive. And then, as I said, every step of the way, Disney said, if you need us to help you with anything, get you in touch with anyone, whatever, let us know. And they would check on us multiple times a day. And then immediately after my mom is admitted, then they ask for another $15,000.
Oh, wow.
That night.
Ugh.
And I'm
that's a big dollar amount. Like the $3,000. I'm not saying $3,000 isn't a big dollar amount, but the $3,000 was probably less than your total cruise price. The $15,000 is probably more than your total cruise price. That's where my comes from.
And I was terrified. I mean, but I was terrified about her safety, and I didn't in her health. And so I paid it going, well, I have insurance. I'll get reimbursed. And I'm talking to the travel insurance people throughout, and about 3 days in, 2 to 3 days in, the travel insurance people had told me, if they ask you for more money, do not pay them. Tell us first. This is after the initial 18,000, 17,000. And I said, okay, so the 3 days in, they tell me 3 days in is Thursday or something. So they tell me, the doctor says she has to be here through the weekend. You need to pay us another $10,000. And I had heard from her, and I hadn't spoken directly to the doctor yet, but from her and the nurses, that they anticipated that she would be released actually on Friday or Saturday to fly back home, that she was on the mend and she would be released. She wasn't staying through the weekend. And so I tell the hospital, I have to call the insurance company first. And the hospital guy's on the phone with me saying, I don't know why you have to ask the insurance company first. And I said, because I have to. And I'm feeling this is all happening in like a 10-minute period, during which time I'm at the hospital, but they won't let me see my mom. And I don't know if there's a connection between me not paying and not seeing my mom. I didn't know what was going on. And so I called the insurance company, and I had somehow missed an email from Zurich in the interim where they said, your mom has a pre-existing condition, we're not paying. And so I get on the phone with them, and I'm talking to somebody else, and he says, your mom had a pre-existing condition. I said, no, she didn't. She wasn't infected before the cruise. We were told she was safe. There wasn't a problem. She has a pre-existing condition. We're not paying. Good luck. And I went, what are you telling me? They just asked me for $10,000 and now you're saying we're washing our hands of it. We don't care. And he said, she had a pre-existing condition. Look at our clauses. We don't cover that. Goodbye. And this was I'm not able to see my mom. I finally get in to see my mom. I am beside myself and terrified. And then in the interim, I make arrangements and call Kaiser. And the guy from the hospital actually physically came to see me. At this point, I had been let into my mom's room. Like, I didn't know if my not being let into my mom's room had to do with the fact that I wasn't paying them. I didn't know, whatever. But then that guy came and said, I did talk to the doctor. Your mom is not supposed to be here through Monday. You don't need to pay us unless it ends up she's here through Monday. When they backed off. And then I got in touch with Kaiser, and Kaiser was super kind. And they said, she's covered under us. It's fine that she's there. We'll pay for it. Take all the documentation. We'll talk to you. Which I didn't trust until I actually had the money in hand stateside, but it was.
Of course. I mean, in general, like medical insurance can give you the runaround. So I'm not saying like every person that you talk to is wrong or right or whatever, but it's really hard, like in the moment, to trust when you've just like given a check for $18,000.
But the lesson here, I think, is like, recognize you've got kind of like with a Disney cruise, you've got kind of 3 layers of what I'll call coverage, right? You've got your existing health insurance. Understand what your existing health insurance does and does not cover before you especially pay attention to like out of network coverage outside the US. Like those are the things you need to pay attention to with your medical insurance. With the travel insurance, yeah, I mean, like you got like there's almost like we're both lawyers, Sam and I, and like the
and Michele is too.
And Michele, like it's impenetrable, right? I mean, it's impenetrable documentation. I remember the first time we got a travel insurance policy was after COVID, and there was an insurance provider. We used them, but there was an insurance provider. We used Allianz, and they were like, "Oh, we have COVID coverage in our plans, but if you bought the plan in Washington State, COVID wasn't covered." So you had to like really read the rider to figure out which states were actually providing the COVID coverage versus not. So it's you got to read that stuff. And then the third layer of coverage is Disney does tend to be generous in what it will help you with or reimburse you for out of the vacation aspect of this, more like the trip interruption kind of coverage that a travel insurance will pay in these circumstances. So you got to know how all of these things interplay. I will just personally say, and again, there's rules over what we can and can't say about travel insurance because we're not travel insurance agents. But I will say our experience with Allianz has been very good in the cases we need to use it. Now, we've had not had to use it for much on the medical side of things because our insurance will pick it up. Or to your point, Michele, the onboard costs are actually fairly reasonable in terms of what, like, they approach what you might copay here in the US for emergency room coverage at times. But all of that to say, the Allianz experience we've had has been pretty good. They have an app on the iPhone, and we, like, the times we need to submit something, it's like, here's a copy of the invoice, here's a quick, explanation for why we needed it. And it's like, usually I get a response back within a day or two of like, yep, all looks good. Money's on its way to your account. Thanks for submitting your claim, kind of thing. So yeah, I think just you gotta understand this stuff and talk to people who are knowledgeable in it. So you make sure you're buying the right things for the right times. I will always advocate though for having travel insurance because it can supplement whatever existing coverage you have, and it will cover things that you aren't insured against. What did Disney end up doing in terms of its compensation for you, Michele? Like, did they fully refund your cruise? They give you additional cruise credit on top? Like, how did they approach kind of anything that they ended up picking up?
They didn't, and maybe I should have asked them for that. But the ultimately, after months of fighting, the travel insurance company did. But Disney was there and didn't go away until I was reimbursed. They said, if you don't get reimbursed by them, we will see what we can do. So they were there the whole way. And I didn't want them. I mean, because the travel insurance had been so difficult, I really wanted to be compensated by them because I felt that I'd paid them and Disney had taken care of us in so many other ways. And in all the other ways, I mean, they took every charge off of anything I had done on the cruise. They didn't charge us for...
I think she had like a rainforest pass and stuff, and they took off every day that wasn't like already passed and used.
No, they even reimbursed me for what I had used. I mean,
and you had a facial, you said, and they didn't.
I paid for.
You're facially paid.
She got reimbursed for the full amount for stuff that had already like started it or anything, but most of the full amount for like the length of day cruises, like almost the full amount.
Yeah, they reimbursed all my Wi-Fi that I had paid for. They reimbursed the rainforest room. They didn't charge us for any of the canceled excursions. The only thing I think that I paid for was the facial, and that's because it had already been billed and it's independent to a certain extent. So,
Right.
But
right. It's the
other than
Senses
that,
Spa, not Disney Cruise Line, technically speaking. And I know that sounds weird. And Disney can reverse, but it's a little bit harder for them. And actually, the rainforest, the fact that they reverse that tells me they did actually talk to the spa
Senses, yeah.
vendor, because that is also through the spa vendor. And so there is, it's a little bit harder for them to reverse spa charges because it has to go through sort of another layer of approval. But that, and they gave you some, I know this sounds weird, but like free stuff. I mean, that's kind of nice, right? Like some gifts for,
They gave us
oh,
a whole
some,
set.
the
Aw.
figurines. Yeah. So Nico got to have some,
When we got off and they gave us gifts, they gave us like a whole set. They gave us a set of all the normal characters I think you would find as a plushie in the same thing as a figurine. And they also gave us a ship, and the ship is actually really detailed if you would see the top deck.
I love that. I
and
love
they
that.
gave him a shirt, and they gave,
And I
they
think I
were,
got this hat. That too. Did I?
I don't remember.
I don't know. But
Well, tell us about the flight now. The flight, did you guys fly all the way to California? I mean, you're going from Nassau and you got to go home. Yeah. So are you flying back all the way to California?
we did Nassau for one stop, I think.
Yeah, we flew all the way from Nassau. It was
To
a flight
Dallas.
from Nassau to LA, and we went through Dallas.
Dallas Fort Worth is like the worst airport we've gone. It's the only airport we've gone through on the Disney Cruise Line, but every single time it's been bad. I think on the way back, we got our gate changed 5 times, and our flight time was moved back an hour and a half, too.
To all of our Texas listeners out there, we love you, but we don't like your airport. Sorry. So you get back to California. At this point, I assume your mom is like just fully released into like she can go home and she just got to take some, you didn't need any continuing like in-hospital care, or did she?
No continuing in hospital care. They released her when she was safe to not be in hospital care. They wanted us to see her doctor immediately when we got back. The hospital in Nassau also checked up on us. And she did have to have ongoing medical care because of the infection, but she was safe to go, and the hospital ended up being wonderful. I do think, despite all the financial scares and extortion and all that, we did make the right decision as far as medical care, because the doctor was amazing. Like he came in from parties to check on my mom. He was great, and he was a surgeon. Like, I don't even know how he got assigned to my mom as a patient, but that was wonderful. And as I said, Disney checked. They called me every single day, even when we got back to LA.
So obviously you had a good experience through a difficult time with Disney, so much so that you decide to book your makeup cruise with Disney. Michele, what advice do you have for people? As they're thinking about booking a cruise, as they're thinking about heading to their next cruise, like what tips do you have for people who, you never know when these situations are going to come up? And so like, what tips do you have heading into the experience to like potentially make it a little easier on folks?
Well, I think the first one was the one that you guys gave, which is getting reliable travel insurance and researching it. I mean, I think that makes a huge difference. And we've gotten it ever since. Just on the cruises from Disney, on other trips from Allianz and something. We won't go to Zurich again, but that's one. The other is being prepared for if the worst thing happens, just trust. I mean, I don't think I'll ever cruise another cruise line. Yes, I didn't have this experience on another cruise line, but I have talked to people and I have seen what Disney did, and I trusted them, and I didn't, and that trust wasn't misplaced, and they've been wonderful. And so, I mean, even my mom, my mom hadn't been on a cruise. Well, I took her to Alaska 15 years ago. But other than that, my mom loves ships, but she did it when she was in her 20s and going to live in Europe for a year with my dad. And she did it several times. And after this experience, she was like, I don't know if I ever want to do that again. And we are going on a cruise in August on a Disney cruise, and she is going, and she's super excited about it. So, and she said, if Disney hadn't treated me so well, I don't think I'd ever do this again. So I think that just planning for the eventualities and knowing knowing going in, obviously, if you do have something that is a problem, if you have a chronic illness, or if something like this happens, maybe you want to postpone your cruise. And if you have a chronic illness, just know that the options are there, and know to be as safe as possible, but also be aware that there is first class medical care available to you on the ship. And that's the same thing if you go on a cruise and you don't have any chronic conditions, or something happens and an emergency happens on the ship, trust that they will take care of you.
I'll also give this tip because we did this one time and I can't remember why we did it, but like Sam had something had happened to you, Sam, and I remember us sort of being like, should we take the trip? Should we not take the trip? I don't remember if it was a cruise or not. And similar to your story, Michele, like the doctor said, I mean, you could take the trip, it'll probably be fine, kind of thing. And I was like, if my wife decided not to take this trip, would you support that decision? And the doctor was like, sure. I'm like, great. Can you give me a note to the effect that in your medical opinion, her decision not to take the trip is supported? So I have that documentation in hand. And now as I look to cancel or move the trip, I have that in hand to take to the insurance company and say, look, the doctor said in his medical opinion, he supports the decision not to travel, right? And like that unlocked the ability then for the insurance company to come in and say, okay, you're right. Like we'll help you with the added costs and expenses here of moving your trip or canceling your trip. So I was just sort of like, yes, rely on medical expertise. But if you're on the fence, like sometimes just having a frank conversation with them about this aspect of it, I think can help. So
yeah. I want to add actually 2 tips. One is travel with a passport, people. Travel with a passport. Like that made Michele, I mean, I don't know what the experience would have been without the passport, but I'm sure it would have been more difficult because you were getting off in the Bahamas instead of getting off in the US. And so, that's a really important consideration for like flying home, all that kind of stuff. So I know that there are people out there who don't, who travel with birth certificates, because you can on most closed loop cruises coming from the US to going to like the Bahamas and the Caribbean, that sort of a thing. But I really highly recommend traveling with a passport. The other thing that I've got to say is having a credit card that has a decent limit on it, because, one of the, many people do not have $10,000 in cash, $15,000 in cash, $20,000 in cash in their bank account. And obviously in the end, Michele got reimbursed through the medical insurance. But, and hopefully if something like this happens to you, you have good enough medical insurance or good enough travel insurance that you'll ultimately get reimbursed. But medical care is expensive. It's expensive in the US. It's expensive in the Bahamas. Frankly, it was a lot cheaper in the Bahamas than you would have spent in the US if you hadn't had, if you're paying cash in the US, you'd pay a lot more than the, $18,000. But yeah, I mean, when you think about it, like if you had to do it and put that on a credit card, if you got a credit card that only has a $5,000 limit, you're going to be in a real bind at that point. So,
no, that's
I'm not
really good advice. Yeah. Because I forgot that part of the story. I should have probably put it on an Amex card because they would have helped me with the insurance, and I didn't think about that at the time. But
that's great advice. That's great advice, Michele. Well, I didn't think of that piece.
Except I will flag outside the US, Amex is not as widely accepted as it is in the US. So
it just depends where you are. Yeah.
That's true. I hadn't thought.
I bet a hospital will take it though. I bet the hospitals take everything.
They'll take Bitcoin if they have to.
Yeah. Right. I did have a credit card that I had just opened a Disney card, and so I had a huge limit. And that was the only reason that didn't terrify me. It was not like I had that money in the bank, because I didn't. So I'd spent it on a Disney cruise. But anyway.
So Michele, is the August sailing the makeup sailing, or did you do a sailing in between as the makeup sailing?
So we did a sailing actually at September of last year. So this one was in June, like mid-June. This one is like mid-September. I did miss a week of school. It was kind of worth it though. It was worth it.
Yeah.
It was worth it.
Hashtag worth it. I love
Yeah.
that.
It was amazing. I was like really excited to go on a new one. Like the second I was, so I was just like waiting. Because I'm going for one for my birthday this year. That's what we're doing in August, and I had a choice between going on the Treasure, which is what we're gonna do, or going on the Destiny in October for a Howling in the High Sea sailing. That one I don't think was. I think that might have been Bahamas or what was also Caribbean. Oh no, that was the same cruise, same itinerary. But I didn't know anything about the Destiny yet, so I chose the Treasure, and we booked the Treasure, and then we found out about the Destiny, and I thought it was even cooler. But I mean, the Treasure is like also the newest ship too, so it's gonna be, and it has
You're-
mostly the same things. And the things that I was like really excited for, like the newer stuff, like the things that were like more newer, were all like for kids. So it was like something that I wasn't really missing out on. And but on this like new ship, we're going to on this like new cruise we went on. We had like a blast. Unfortunately, we didn't have any shared table at all, so we didn't get to meet anyone new really. Like I tried going to Edge. I just don't really enjoy it as much not knowing anybody there already. So just
Yeah.
but having like good servers is amazing. It's just I like having them to talk to sometimes is great, and having them like always knowing something like what you're gonna do and stuff like that was
Yeah,
amazing.
I mean, look, the
I
Treasure
love
is a
that.
fantastic ship. So, like, it's between the Treasure and the Destiny, it's like a dead heat these
You
days.
can't go wrong. Well, and the Treasure you get 2 more days on. It's a
Yeah.
longer cruise, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think that's a wrong decision whatsoever. And I agree with you, Nico. There's a lot of the new things that are on the Destiny are actually adult only. And so I think the Treasure is an amazing, amazing choice. I want to comment before we started recording, Nico showed me the screensaver on his phone, and it's him with his server from their last cruise. And so I love that. I love that you made such a great connection with your server. I love that you had a wonderful makeup cruise. There he is. Yeah.
So, the August sailing that you've got coming up is where are you headed on that one?
So that's the
Caribbean again. I think it was the same as the Destiny. We're doing that.
but it's not again. The makeup cruise was a dream. It was the exact same.
Oh, what?
Ship. It was the exact same
Gotcha. Same
itinerary,
ship,
and
same
that was last September. And then the birthday cruise is the Treasure Western Caribbean
And this time
cruise.
we're trying veranda, which we did ocean view last time. So we're trying veranda, and I wanted to try one, but we didn't get those like huge veranda ones. We did get a deck 11 room, so
Nice.
pretty happy about that. So
Nice.
Awesome. I bet
Well,
it's going to be an amazing cruise.
yeah.
Yeah. Michele, anything that we missed that you wanted to be sure to share about this experience before we kind of wind down here?
No, I think that you guys covered the things that were the most important that I missed. I mean, I think that it's just having a passport. I didn't even think about that because it was seamless because we had the passports and travel insurance and checking your medical care, because I'm not on Kaiser, my mom is, so I don't even know what my coverage would be or Nico's, but my mom, when we now know, Kaiser covers because there are no Kaiser hospitals abroad, so they cover when you travel, but that's a really good thing to know to have, because and also actually what I did learn both between that happening and planning the cruise for my mom this year is getting mobility assistance for the older people in your.
And one last question I meant to ask was, how was Costco throughout this experience? Did you need them to help with anything, and how was that?
So I did contact them after the fact, and they were more than willing to help. They were very understanding, and I didn't end up using their help with Zurich, but I had gotten them on board in case it was necessary.
That makes sense.
One thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Nico.
If something like this is happening, like try to do as many like of the things you want to do before you get off. Because I did more on the aqueduct. Of course, it was like later, so it's like the one thing where they require 2 people. But I would like do like the game shows or go to the theater or something, whatever like you wanted to do, to like do it now. Or even go get the pool deck chicken tenders, which I still think are the best in the world.
The best chicken tenders, life-changing chicken tenders. Yeah. That's right, Nico. You got it. Great advice.
The ones are just the best.
Yeah, like, great. That's great advice. I'm like, we always tell people, prioritize what's most important to you. And whether that's doing that on day 1 or day 2, right? Like just prioritize whatever's most important to you. You never know what the future may bring.
And life-changing comfort food from the pool deck in these moments is never a bad idea.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
So, Michele, I think we'll wrap up here. I just want to say thank you to you and to Nico for coming on and sharing this fairly traumatic experience that your family had on the ship. But I think it's really great to hear from someone who's gone through that experience and the tips that you provided, and also for folks to help understand like what they can expect in these moments. So just thank you to you for sharing this with everyone out there. We really, really appreciate it.
Well, and thank you guys for what you do, because I wouldn't have known anything about DCL, I think, without you guys. So we love you. So thank you.
Yeah, she is. I'm not too into podcasts, but she has like every time, like for like the past weeks or like months, and before the other cruise, I get into the car, I just hear like your guys' podcast.
Our voices. I love it. So you know our voices already, Nico.
Days, whatever was last on, and I just hear like you guys on one of your episodes.
Well, we love that.
My secret's out now.
Well, thank you both for listening. We very much appreciate it.
Well, thanks to everyone out there for listening this week. We really, really appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you can keep getting great content from us every week. In fact, twice a week we publish shows. So be sure to hit the subscribe button to get all of those great episodes. And if you want to watch us live, we have a live show now every week, Monday nights, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern over on youtube.com/DCL Duo. So be sure to head over and check that out. If you want to help support the show, be sure to hit those 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And if you leave us a written review, a 5-star written review, we will read it at the top of one of our main episodes. So please head over there and hit those 5 stars. Of course, you can also help support the show by supporting our fabulous show sponsor, My Path Unwinding Travel. If you want to book your next Disney vacation, head over to mypathunwinding.com/DCL Duo or email them at dclduo@mypathunwinding.com so they know we sent you their way. If you've got questions or you'd like to connect with us, the best way to do that is to head over to dclduo.com. It's got links to all of our things, full catalog of the podcast episodes, including a searchable catalog for the podcast, links off to our vlog, a link to our Etsy store where we sell some fun fan-inspired magnets, link to our Patreon if you'd like to help directly support the show each and every month. Just head over to the website or patreon.com/DCLDuo. Also has a way for you to sign up for our Substack newsletter that we're hoping to start really pumping out monthly here at least, and a few blog articles that we've written. So DCLDuo.com is the best way to connect with us. You can also, of course, email us at info@DCLDuo.com or reach out to us on our voicemail line at 402-413-5590. That's 402-413-5590. The DCL Duo podcast is not affiliated with Disney Cruise Line, the Disney Company, or the Disney family of theme parks. The views expressed on the show are solely those of the individuals on the podcast and in no way reflect the views of the Disney Company or Disney Cruise Line. If you have questions about a Disney cruise or a Disney vacation, please contact the great folks over at My Path Unwinding Travel or Disney directly or your own travel agent. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time for another fabulous adventure with the DCL Duo. Good night.